Hey everyone, I wanted to show you a new feature I'm adding, and we're going to do it with the dragons here, because the dragons will definitely take advantage of this more than other characters like the slime, where there aren't many pieces to the model. If you look over here in our procedural materials, the dragon has 10 different materials because there's 3 different heads, 2 different tails, the body, which is huge, and therefore it needs a lot of resolution, and so there's just a lot of different materials that go onto the dragon. One problem with that is if you want to change the look of the dragon right now, you go into the body, and this is our newest graph here, so you click enable texture modification, you up the lightness of the body, and that changes, but it doesn't change the head or anything else. And so I've created a new script, a new editor script that makes it a little bit easier. Before I did have a script that helped you out a little bit, but it was hard coded and it wasn't the best. And when I upgraded the graph to this newest version, which has a whole lot more options down here than before, and it's also faster. The old scripts wouldn't have worked. So this script works for every character I make. In fact, you could even use this between different characters if you really wanted to. Most of the time that wouldn't make any sense since they have different starting looks, but perhaps it does for your project, whatever you're working on. So this is a new scene called SFB Dragon Texture Creation. This is going to be in the Demo Scenes folder next to the Dragon Demo Texture Creation. This is a scene you can use to create your textures with. Just load this one up in a brand new project. I've got a bunch of dragons here with various looks, so every body part is represented, the saddle and some without the saddle and so on. So this will already be populated because I actually haven't tested this on the dragons yet. I've tested it on a small thing but not on the big one, so we're going to test it together. I'm going to add the copy this to that component here. This URL will be populated soon. I haven't actually made the page, but it's going to have a list of all the body parts on each model or each material. It's a little reference to make it a little bit easier for you to set this up. It's pretty straightforward though. When we click add new action, we need to supply a source material, a source name, a target material, and a target name. And so we're going to supply dragon body to start, and we're going to go to the dragon head A. And if you look at the dragon body, it's looking for these sections right here: body, underside, wing, etc. It's going to copy body to whatever section we want on the other target. So all this data, we only have to change it once for the body, and it will be updated on everything. So dragon body has something called body. Dragon head also has something called body. So in our copy this to that control, I'm just going to type in body for each of those. Now I'm going to do a bunch of these. When I add a new action, it's going to copy the last things, assuming that perhaps I'm going to copy from dragon body again, save some time on the drag and drop. And that's true, I am going to do that. So I'm also going to do underside to dragon head underside. And I'm going to do dragon body. I've got notes over here. Carapace to horn. The names don't have to match. The carapace on the dragon body is down here on the feet. That's a new section I just added for this update. And the horn is right here. So I'm going to want those to match. You can easily just delete these if you don't want it to match, or create your own, copy this to that component, and set up your very own version. That's it for head A. So I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to bring in head B over here. So let's just test these out right now. I'm going to just change some stuff kind of arbitrarily. I'm going to make the body, make that light. Oops, not the underwing. Alright, first I need to make sure enable texture modifications is on. And next I want to change the saturation, bring up the lightness a little bit. bring the overlay blend up a bunch and change that to a color like cyan. But let's just see what happens when I click this button over here. I'm just going to click the copy settings button. It did not update. One thing I am missing is main. Dragon hit A, dragon hit B. Okay, copy those settings. There we go. So I was missing main. Main is on our sections here is this first section, and that's enable texture modification. Without that enabled, no other updates happen. So it copied the data, but it didn't copy the update. So as you can see here, we have the change happened. It doesn't match entirely. So if it doesn't match entirely, I can go back into Dragon Head A here and say, okay, well that blue's a little bit too bright. I'm just going to bring down the overlay blend a little bit and make it match a little bit better. Okay, now it matches perfectly. I like that. In the previous way of doing it, this would always be matched as long as that script was active. So this allows you to copy everything to get a general idea and then fine-tune on the details. If I do click that copy button again, it will go back to where I had it before. So I'm going to add a whole bunch more connections to this right here so that when you get the package, you can start updating pretty quickly without having to worry about the nitty-gritty details and setting this whole list up. And if you want to make your own, it shouldn't be too difficult. But let me know what you think about this. It's new. I think it could be improved, perhaps with some grid-based, thing. But that programming is likely above my head. If you happen to know how to do it and want to help me out, I'm sure I can trade you for some model packages. So let me know if anyone's interested in helping me out on that. But I would love to make this a node-based. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the body a little bit more here. Maybe do a better job of it. Alright, now I've updated the look of the body to something I kind of like. So I'm going to go ahead and click that button again. And there we go, they're all updated now. So again, if I want to go over and do some fine-tuning, I can certainly go into each section and do some tweaking there. But otherwise, it's pretty much set. Along with main here, one other keyword to remember is env. If we type in env, it stands for environment. If you look at the procedural material here, if you hold your mouse over a section, it'll show you the name of it. So this is env_grounder_enable. So if you want to match all the environmental changes you can make, just type in env. If you want to type in or match just a single one, say grounder, you can type in env_grounder or sealing dirt. Don't include the trailing underscore. The script adds that automatically. But that way I can set up the environmental stuff for one section and copy it to all the other sections. So I'm going to do that now. First, I'm going to add that to the different parts here. So I've added the environmental section to all of the other procedural materials. That way I can adjust it on the body and it'll copy to all of them. And the reason why I'm choosing all of them is because I am going to use things like surface, dirt, and damage, and I just want that to hit on the saddle as well as the body. Let's look at some of these new things, because if you're familiar with the Dragon already, there were some of these options, but now it's kind of those options on steroids. So let's start with some ground dirt. We'll make this a bright color. Make sure to click the enable button and bring up the height a little bit. Let's see where we are there. So bring up the roughness. We'll keep it a little bit wet, not super wet. Make it less contrasted and less of a level. Just a little bit more, a little higher. There we go. And I'm going to use my preset dirt that I like right there. It's just a dark one. And we'll close that. Sealing dirt, we'll ignore Surface dirt. I do want to enable surface dirt again. Let me choose a random color. We'll choose pink. Bring up the edge dirt and see what that does. Bring up all the way. Make sure that color took. There it is. So you can see it starts, on the edges. I like that. Alright, so let's bring up the amount of dirt as well. This is probably going to be a huge effect, yeah. So if you bring edge dirt down and just amount up. Alright, you can see it starts from the cracks forward. You can definitely see that on the underside here. I'm going to leave that pink for now because when I copy it, I want to be able to see the effect on the other parts. But I'm going to make this less rough so it's more dry dirt. And I'm going to bring down the contrast a little bit on that, and bring up the edge dirt just a tiny bit. Not too much. Next, directional dirt is, just like ground dirt and ceiling dirt, but on a direction. Most of the time it works. However, in some cases, like on this case, we've had to mirror the feet on the map, so not all directions will work. Let me show you what I mean here. So we've got this red, Y invert means top down, so that looks fine, and Y will be bottom up, and then X be side or front to back, side to side, I'm not sure which. But since it's inverted, you're getting inside out almost, which could work for your purposes, but it won't always work. It just depends on, it just depends on, there we go, it's front to back. So what we could do is use this Y inverted, and we'll leave that red. I'll remove it at the end because I'm probably not going to like it, but I just want to see how it affects the heads. So we'll leave that directional dirt there. Let's enable damage and make sure it's not masked metal only. That way it affects the rest of the skin and the textures. Let's bring up the wear level and see what happens. There we go. Definitely see some wear level. It looks like the roughness is low, so let's bring the roughness up. You don't want it to get shiny. But maybe bring up the lightness to see. Oh yeah, there we go. So now when he's, see the difference there. The skin gets a little lighter. And if we bring up the notch level, what does that do? Yeah. So let's just do that a little bit. Changing the hue, no, we don't need to change the hue. We can keep the saturation at 0.5. Or do we want to desaturate it? We can make it super saturated. No. No, I think just a little lower is fine. A little lighter on the lightness is fine. Keep the roughness up. Increase or decrease the grunge amount. Keep that back where it was. So now we've got some damage. Now if we turn that off, we can see the difference. Now things like fabric wearing, leather weathering, and metal weathering, these obviously they're meant for fabric, leather, and metal, but they can have interesting effects on the rest of the model as well. Alright, so let's go back to our control here. I'm just going to click that button. Now, of course, the red directional dirt and the pink dirt I'm going to modify, but I just want to see what the settings look like. There we go. So clearly the directional dirt is very strong at the front. It's like they got sprayed with paint. Alright, so they're all updated now. Obviously, directional dirt is not something I want to keep. I'm going to go back to the body and we'll turn that off. While that finishes updating the rest, I'm going to start looking at the dirt here to make sure I like the look I do. It might be a little strong around the eyes here and such, but I think I like it. So I'm going to go back to the dragon body, go down to my surface dirt section, change that color to my favorite dirt color, which I've pre-saved to just a dark dirt. Now if I really want to, of course, I could fine-tune things. This actually looks pretty decent. All of these dragons look like they belong together, they're matching. So I could go and change things around, but I don't have to. One thing I add is the ability to change the middle part of this dragon head A. That's another cool thing I add. So now I'm done. So I'm going to export these now. The best way to export now, our old export thing doesn't really work in the newest versions anymore. So the simpler way, and this actually is somewhat better for other reasons, select your material here, go in the top right corner and choose export bitmaps. Either one of these works. I'm just going to choose original alpha channels. I'm going to go to my assets and Asset Base Studios, Dragon, and export textures and materials. I'm going to call this, copy this demo dragon. This will be a download. Actually, I'll include it in the project. So this will be in the project for you as well. Choose that, and it's going to export the maps here. Let's find it on my system. Dragon, export materials, copy this. I actually should have created a new folder and called this body, or dragon body, to separate the sections out a little bit. So these are targas, and they are 16 megabytes each. So first I'm going to get rid of the emissive and the height. I don't want to use the height, I don't want to use the emissive. So we'll get rid of those, and we'll change this to PNG. And then now they're only 7 megs each. It's a lossless compression, so we've got our maps right here. And when we come back into Unity, it'll update that. And go into my export maps, copy this, dragon body, create a new material, call it dragon body, and bring those maps that I just made into there. So albedo opacity, normal map when it says fix now, ambient occlusion, and the metallic roughness. There you go. So now I've got the standard shader material ready to drag onto my actual in-game models. Ideally, you'll be doing the texturing in a brand new scene, so I can actually just go in here, and when I'm done, just say export package, and it'll export all the materials, and you can just bring that package into your main scene to work with. So that's probably the best workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and export the rest of these so that you can use this dragon if you really want to. Alright, so if you have any questions, let me know. This whole copy this to that thing is brand new. I just wrote this today. I definitely know it can be improved. I think maybe drop down options would be better than having you type them out and so on. But let me know what you think. I think this should help with your efficiency. This will be here in this demo scene, so if you want to use it, go ahead and just use it as is. You can do exactly what I did and then fine-tune the other stuff like the saddle, or if you want to change the teeth or the eye color or anything like that, you can. One thing also that's brand new for 5.3.4, if you do, I've made all these changes, and I want to go back, but I don't want to have to undo all the changes I've done. If you go to your procedural material, in the top button here, just click the reset button, and it should reset. In earlier versions, it wasn't actually working properly. Alright, it didn't give us an error. That's good. Before it used to give errors. It reset the body. Now if I go back to the copy this to copy that, and copy all the settings, and those will reset every single setting on every single part that I changed before, all back to the factory default pretty settings. So now you can mess around to your heart's content without worrying about having to undo everything afterwards, which was something that always annoyed me when I was making multiple versions. So there you go. Have a great day, guys. Let me know what you think.